Good evening. The News Gang is here tonight. The hot seat left behind by David Maraga, who's next on the chopping board. Also, as many as of that opinion say aye, the punches have it. Rest in peace, 844. Will the new CBC live happily ever after? The eulogy and other classroom stories. Plus, from the year of Jubilee to the end times, the divorce proceedings are on. On the kicker tonight, filling Maraga's shoes. Do the judges know something we don't? Yvonne's take is about the SRC, the car grants, and something that walks like a duck. Kashuri punches away with civility, while the angle tonight is from the cold nights of Kisumu. Jamila is still away tonight, and our sign language gangster is Wilson Mushar. All right, let's begin.
I need to put the question so that now we can see. Now, can I get from the details? Will as many, where is the number? Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Where is the teller? Where is the teller? Where is the teller? The yes are. The yes are. The no are. The no. The no are 30. This house stands adjourned until next.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we must begin. Kai, you know, for a moment when they were saying as many of that opinion, I was not sure which opinion they were talking about. It was the left punch or the right punch. But that was Baringo County Assembly today discussing BBI. In the end, they took a vote and they said it was, I don't know, 30 against 10. But obviously, there's been a real dispute around it. Some of those MCAs holding a news conference after that and saying, you know what, there was no vote. This thing has not gone anywhere. But quite a spectacle there, considering that this was supposed to be a vote, not a boxing match.
A very interesting way of Baringo County Assembly to introduce itself to a lot of viewers. I mean, these are the first shots. I don't think we've covered them that much. So this is a debut.
But it's going to be unforgettable.
This is unforgettable. You know, the speaker is right there, still trying to raise his voice over the place. But this is a very bad sign. This is not a good sign. This is ugly. And what you can tell is it is politics at play. And what politics at play? 2022. It's basically the usual. How this BBI debate will play out in some places is if you are with President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, then you'll be pro-BBI. If you are with Deputy President William Ruto, then you are anti-BBI. It gets complicated further in places like Baringo, where there are local politics at play, and the supremacy battle between the Deputy President William Ruto and the Baringo Senator Gideon Moi. So these factors are all there. And if you look at the Baringo, even the elections in 2013 and 2017, there was always those factors at play. Jubilee fighting it out with KANU, and what we have seen today is no different, Joe. It's a supremacy battle between William Ruto and Gideon Moi.
Yvonne, it doesn't get lower than this.
It certainly doesn't. I mean, I have a couple of questions. So in that clip, and I don't know if we can continue to play it, at the beginning of what seems peaceful, there's an explosion at an entrance into this.
It was a tear gas.
It was a tear gas canister.
Yeah.
Okay, so who lobbed the tear gas canister? Because obviously this is not something that is by civilians. I mean, take a look at that, and it is all hell breaks loose.
Yeah,
from this
it actually
moment.
doesn't even look like
it doesn't even look like a yes,
in the first place. I mean, you think that
right, like an explosion of sorts,
or something.
And then the eyes have it in the midst of all the confusion and shouting, and there's a woman who's screaming throughout. Two things for me. This is obviously very crucial for Senator Gideon Moi. This is his home turf. This is the place where he will prove his worth as the leader of KANU. He will prove his worth, within the BBI brigade as to whether he can deliver this vote. And it'll be a big embarrassment. I mean, they've already said that they've passed to reject it. The KANU MCAs are saying there was no vote that took place in chaotic scenes such as this. But wait to see what happens. But for him, this is obviously do or die.
But also
at
just
least in this
important
respect.
For the DP.
And just as important for the DP to actually trounce him, in his own backyard. But then just to concur with Linus, that this violence is unacceptable, and it is also something that should not be looked at in isolation. There's been so much violence that's been associated with this BBI process and all of the politics we have seen. You only have to take this in the context of what we have seen for a long time. Certain politicians not being allowed in certain places, being booed in Githurai, being booed in Burma, and violence that we have seen up until this point. There is a build-up here, and this is very worrying if we continue in this way, that a county assembly, there is violence over a vote such as this. It is all building up, and it is all to do with this process. And it is my hope that something happens between now and then, because they seem like little small isolated incidents, but when you connect the dots, we're hurtling towards a very, very serious case come 2022, and something has got to give and something has got to happen to stop this violence from taking place.
Yes, Francis, you just want to jump in.
Yeah, that question that Yvonne is asking, that lobbying of the tear gas. First of all, take note, it's very strategic. It is strategic in the sense that the lobbying is just before the vote is taken.
Yeah.
I mean, parliamentary procedure is such that if a vote is not effectively taken, then, or something happens just before the vote is taken, you'll have to, come back to that discussion either when the situation has calmed down or in a different sitting altogether.
Yeah.
So I would think, and probably this is the correct position, that the lobbying of that tear gas was strategic. Strategic in the sense that disrupt the voting, make sure that no voting takes place, maybe give the MCAs an opportunity, or the two sides an opportunity to go and lobby afresh, so that you bring the discussion to the floor of the House again. Yeah. Yesterday, I think yesterday and the day before yesterday, members of the County Assembly from Baringo County met the Jubilee Party leadership, and there were specific instructions that were given, because Jubilee Party has a majority in Baringo County Assembly, and the instructions are clear to Jubilee MCAs that when this bill comes to your assembly for voting, you must vote in favor. But you saw the MCAs went and they told the Secretary General a few things, in his presence, that this is the position they are going to take, and their support for the Deputy President, and so on and so forth. So, as Lina says, this is purely politics. What you saw in Baringo County Assembly is that contest between the Deputy President and the Baringo Senator. And so, all the hula baloo that you saw here was all politics, and even that tear gas lobbying was meant to make sure that the voting does not take place. Now, according to the video, if you listen to it completely, the speaker is making a ruling that even though the verbal vote was, the ayes have it, obviously the way the question is put is those in favor, whether you support or don't support the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020. So if you're to say aye, yes, it means the bill has been carried, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, it means you'd say that the bill has been approved. And that's why you saw later on, he was saying, he even went ahead to read the number of guys who voted. But which votes were taken because the voting was by acclamation?
Yeah, it is true. I mean, like, there was no, you couldn't see a point at which people were settled enough to take any civilized vote.
Or to even listen to what the question, you know, all those in favor of. So the ones who are saying aye, what were they saying aye to?
Obviously,
because there was so much noise. I don't know, could anyone hear this?
The bill had already been tabled, so they had familiarized themselves with the bill, so they knew what the question was. But now, how the question was put, you would have expected if a majority of the MCs are saying they reject, then the nays would have been louder than the ayes. You get the point? So now, you've seen a news conference shortly after, some MCs saying there was no vote that was taken, they're going to contest the outcome. But on the other hand, the majority MCs are saying the vote was taken, and so
whichever way, ladies and gentlemen, it does appear that we are going to hear more about this Baringo vote that happened today, if you can call it a vote. But we are going to hear more from that assembly. But this is part of the wider BBI thing that we have seen over the week, and an interesting development happening again in Karen just the other day, where again we saw all these members of parliament allied to the deputy president going there and issuing statements, rather strong statements about BBI and related events. And Francis, I am sure you followed that. I'm going to come to you in a moment. But Linus, what did you hear when you had those MPs speak there at this point in our politics? I mean, it is not a very usual thing that we have, where you have all these people speaking at the official residence of the DP and saying very tough things, some of them directed very, very, very squarely at the president.
What I hear from them is an emerging trend of consistency in opposing BBI and in seeing BBI as a political process that it is. I think what we're also seeing as a country is a mix-up of these two big events. We have the 2022 election next year, the first Tuesday of August next year. Literally, we can start counting days. And then we have the referendum, or we are supposed to have a referendum over the new, the Constitution of Kenya 2020 Amendment Bill. And these two are actually clashing. Clashing in the sense that the DP side of the political divide is focused on 2022. And anything else before that is a distraction that should be resisted. And that's why you heard Duale saying, this is not a priority. BBI is not a priority. And you will hear many of them saying
actually, we can listen to Duale. I think we have that soundbite.
It is popular initiative because it belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to IBC. It doesn't belong to the MCS. And we are saying, if worst come to the worst, give the people of Kenya their democratic right to choose from the menu that the people of Northern Kenya can choose, the people of Mount Kenya can choose, the people of Nairobi can choose, the people of the Rift and Western and Nyanza can choose. Do not force people on an item that they have a constitutional right, which is called a popular initiative. Let me tell you for free, and I want to tell them and dare them. I want to dare them. Let them not discuss the impeachment of the deputy president in bars, in funerals, in the apartments of their girlfriends. Let them bring it to the floor of the House, starting tomorrow, Tuesday, when the House resumes. So we dare them, whether, you know, here, we are telling them, all of them, the ODM, the ANC, the Wiper, the Kelewekes, please go sit somewhere, bring the impeachment. We are ready for you.
Just so what I see here is a continuation of the delaying tactics. Multiple choice was first suggested by Deputy President William Ruto, and it has come now as a rallying call. So don't oppose BBI directly. Can you say something that can either slow it down?
She's like, what you go buying something and you say that price, ile bei ya kukata, like.
Yes, and multiple choices. I mean, Baringo today had a simple question of yes and no. So, and you saw how it went. So I don't know how a multiple choice referendum would play out if Baringo is anything to go by. Today they had a choice of yes.
You fight on each, on each of them.
On each item, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Francis, you'd have many rounds of the fight, huh? but quite interesting that, you know, the brigade that the Tanga brigade, as they have been called, basically laying it out that this BBI thing, whereas they're not, you know, unlike Linda Katiba and everything, they're not saying we don't want this, but they are saying all these things that in the final analysis, the net effect might actually just be the same, that, you know, with all of these things, it just might not be possible to have it.
There are two positions that I had the day before yesterday during that meeting, and the first meeting when the Deputy President met all those MPs. One, the question of whether BBI was a priority or not. In that clip that we've just played, Aden Duale repeating the very same assertions that were made back then, that it is not a priority. Number two, the question of multiple choice referendum. But I have not had a direct no or a direct yes. And therein lies the question. I remember our colleague Chemutai going asking that question specifically during that news conference. What will be the advice of the DP's team to the county assembly members in the 47 county assemblies when the bill comes before them? And that is the answer that was given by Duale, that it is not a priority. So that probably would explain why you see some scenarios in, like you saw in Baringo, where there is perceived no. So they will vote no. So even in some county assemblies where the Deputy President has substantial number of MCAs, you will expect them to vote no, because that is the impression that they get. That is the view that they get, that this is the position to take. And on the other hand, those who support the President and the former Prime Minister will vote yes. You get the point? So the positions are already taken.
There are three of them have already done.
Yeah, so the positions are already taken even before, you know, you can say this is the no side, this is the yes side. And I see a scenario where the DP side has kind of refused to take up a firm no position despite being pushed that direction continuously. As it stands now, the scoreboard reads 3-1 if you're to take the Baringo vote as a no, as a rejection, because I see that that's what the majority MCAs were that is the position they were taking.
And waiting for the VAR on that one?
I don't know whether even if you were to look for the VAR, the result will change. But I think it will still remain a goal for the no side. Much as the same way we have seen the three in Kisumu, in Homa Bay, and in Siaya.
No, but you know, in those three, let's be honest,
it was obvious. It was expected.
I mean, like, there was no situation that created any doubt. It was obvious
But here is something that is really consistent about the 4 counties that have already voted. Is it really about the content of BBI?
No.
Is the politics?
I don't think so. It is, the politics is flying above the content. Oh. Because in Nyanza, the 3 counties that voted, this is the base of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And, you know, there was a very good prelude to that in Kisumu, a meeting that was attended by all the 3 governors of the
Sagana version.
That he's the Sagana version of Nyanza. And basically to get the teams to do as the party wants. And let's not forget, one of the MCAs in a meeting was promising that we'll pass it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now I know BBI is not that long, but it shouldn't take 5 minutes to go through. It should take longer than 5 minutes to go through its content. So the one consistent thing that is emerging is it is politics. It's not really the content. But is this any different from how we've done it previously? No.
Yeah.
We've never read the contents of this so-called reforms. Whether it's the 2010 Constitution or even the 2005, the signal always came from the leadership. What is the leadership saying? Which is why it can be said the situation in Mount Kenya also has changed since Sagana, because they heard from the leadership. President Uhuru Kenyatta went there and explained himself on this content. Francis, you were there. There were experts that were explaining how the content will work for the region. So this talk of give them books, give them copies, is just pure rhetoric, because people listen to what the leadership
a number of people
saying.
Don't read, and even if they read, they have what those clever people call cognitive dissonance. What they hear, confirmation bias. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it contradicts what they have been told, so they will stick with what they've been told.
Absolutely.
But this came, as Linus was saying, on the back of that meeting that Raila Odinga had, and only confirming what you were pointing out here, Linus, about the fact that this thing is really not about what that document says. It is about where are we going, as whether it's a region, party, whatever it is, but the political leader defines the direction, and that's where it is going. That was a significant meeting, Yvonne, as far as that political process is concerned.
Well, yeah, and as we said, just as significant as it was, you know, with the Sagana one, even where we saw, you know, the apparent disagreement with any of those governors. Was it the Migori governor, Okoth Obado, as well? So anyone who was deemed to be, you know, a little bit lukewarm or not, you know, siding with this was then, you know, obviously put out. And to talk about politics, and you know, what happened in Karen, there were some interesting things. So of course, first of all, a lot of mixing of issues. And I think when everybody says they don't necessarily want to take a firm no stand, I mean, I think when somebody says this is not a priority, I mean, it's pretty clear what they're saying, that this is not something they definitely support. But there's also a number of issues that were coming up, you know, the referendum, there's the impeachment that, you know, they sought to address with the resumption of the House sittings for this year. And then there was the issue of, you know, the Jubilee fallout that played out in Karen, with them supposedly withdrawing their remittances, the deepening divorce, and, you know, making statements as to how much money they're going to...
I think you've taken us to that divorce. We could as well go there.
Oh, have I?
Yeah,
sorry, have I jumped the gun?
It's fine. We can as well go there, because that's where we are heading anyway.
Yeah, and so that I found interesting, where we, you know, like we've all said in the newsroom, we will wait to see, you know, whether there's anything that comes out of it. What usually happens, Gashuri, that they have to write to the clerk of the respective house to say, you know, from this month on, and it's what, 50 shillings apparently that's now going to
50 and 500, Bob.
50 and?
Between 50 and 500, Bob.
That'll now go to Jubilee?
Yep.
As opposed to what? 10,000 shillings. And then the 9,500 goes to what they're calling the Kazi Initiative? Kazi Nikazi Initiative, that's right. And so just the split continuing to happen. Like we've said, this is the divorce, and now they're just dividing. So, you know, how much alimony goes to the wife, how much, you know, who takes this, who takes that. And of course, all of that coupled with what the president said. I know I've just taken us into that one.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah. But I'd wanted to say something else on public participation, but, you know, I don't know if I've already jumbled things up and skipped the gun. But can I do that a little bit? The public participation that they say is, you know, happening, I think Meru, Embu, Nairobi.
Actually, there are about 15 county assemblies so far that have filed notices for public participation.
And this is what brings into question the principle of public participation in this country. So some questions. We don't have regulations laying out how this process works, right? How should it be done? What is the threshold? How many people should have participated for us to say they have met the threshold? Is it the number, a percentage of registered voters in the region? Is it a percentage of the residents of a county, a sub-county, a ward, a constituency? What is the nature of public participation? Do you just have people seated there and you read this thing out to them? You know, people listen. Is there a robust debate that's expected? And out of that debate, who is taking the minutes? Who is capturing this feedback? And to what extent is this feedback binding on, say, the MCAs or legislators of any kind, for example? In the case of a draft bill, Is this draft bill even available to everybody else? I've seen, people are being told, like in Kisii County today, go onto the Kisii County government website. The MCAs are already saying that they are briefed on how this will go, but, and I heard that today, but they're saying they just want to do this public participation so that this process isn't contested in a court of law. Meaning, the outcome of the public participation is neither here nor there, or means anything. And so maybe this would be as good a time as any for us to actually start to wonder whether public participation is helpful, needed, or is it just something that's on paper?
Yeah, but even what I think that confirms is the fact that this is really not about the document. This is about all those other issues that are related to the politics of the day, because let's face it, I mean, for example, we've seen Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay today passing that bill. I mean, even if you were to go to that community around Homa Bay, for example, and start talking to people about BBI, given all the circumstances and the politics around it, even if you did that public participation for 3 months or for 1 year, chances are that they will still just come and pass it, which means that at the end of the day, we have to address this question of what truly determines how we make decisions in this country. I do not think that we make decisions on merit, that you have looked at this document, you've read every page, and therefore, so a lot of these things will happen as tokenism, where people just want to tick the boxes.
And sorry, I just want to add, because I think it has bigger implications beyond, this referendum bill that we're discussing. There's always public participation for county development funds, plans, county budgets, the national and local laws, even the national budgets that we discuss and debate. And so how easy are these documents? Are they presented? Are they available? Are they simple? Are they easy to understand? Or do they have all this technical jargon? Is it just about ticking a box? And these are some of the questions that maybe I hope, if nothing else comes out of this BBI process, that we start to really talk about public participation and what it means, and whether it is, let's just do away with it if we don't really intend to be serious about the process. I mean,
Joe, it's not so much about the document. What happened today in Baringo confirms that it's not so much about the document. In fact, I see a scenario where a vote had already been taken in the county assembly, and the numbers were clear, 30-11. Yeah, and even as they were putting the question for that verbal whatever, you could already see where the direction the vote had already taken. It was already a confirmed outcome, so to say. However, it would be interesting to note that, for example, in Siaya County, public participation was done today and the voting done the following day. So how much of the input from members of the public was taken in that final vote? So it's more or less like it's a formality, so to say. It's a formality, and you'll see a lot of that happening in the county assemblies, because the MCAs have already been briefed: vote this way or vote that way, and you will see a lot of that. Finally, we don't have a threshold. Probably if we did, it would have made a little more sense. Like, for example, how much is enough public participation? Is it a third of the county population, a third of the county registered voters? Probably there ought to have been some threshold so that this is the way to go about it. How many days? 14, 7, 30, 21? How many to go? Unfortunately, no matter what we say here or elsewhere, decisions on how this bill will go in county assemblies is already kind of made in specific county assemblies. But I would want to see how Nairobians, the Nairobi MCAs will vote, how the vote will be in Nakuru, how the vote will be, for example, in Kajiado, Nyeri, and some specific parts of the country. So that
on public participation,
swing county assemblies.
On public participation, duty really flows both ways, because there is this culture in our country where Mwananchi will sit and say, I'm waiting for public participation. It's something actually that Mwananchi should demand. It is in the Constitution, Article 10. It's in the national values. That's how we are supposed to be governed. But you notice that Kenyans are still very reserved on civic duty. We don't have a very active citizenry when it comes to asking some of those hard questions. You're supposed to see some of these citizen-driven forums that are asking questions out there. What is the content of this? What is the most active one that we have. The face of it is Bunge la Mwananchi
right,
at Jivanji.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have similar forums that are driven by Wananchi.
Across the country.
And look, we are going to talk about JSC in a moment. When you look at certain processes, when government wants it done, when parliament wants it done, they even organize for that public participation. There'll be somebody who's been briefed to either oppose or support something, which is not really public participation. So on this one, I think it's a problem that the population should, we all as Kenyans should own up and say, on public participation, not one person is really to blame. Both ends are.
But have you read some of those complex documents? There's the County Integrated Development Plan. That thing is a bulky document. It's got a lot of technical jargon. I think there's also responsibility on the part of government and legislators to make some of these documents, one, accessible. And two, easy to understand. I've looked at some of those documents and even I'm...
Joe, on this particular matter, this bill, you see, not even members of the county assembly can change anything in that document. They either pass it as is or reject it as is. There's no change. So now, this public participation is supposed to assist the MCAs
to vote yes or
to go and vote yes or no in the county assembly.
Which is
Will they do it?
We need to point out, though, that one of the 7 cases in court actually has that as one of the issues to be determined. But let's take a break. We will be right back, and there's lots to discuss after this break.